Good morning. So welcome to our show, Restorations and Discoveries, all extremely rare films scanned direct from original nitrate. I'm only here to introduce two wonderful people who are going to be hosting this show. First of all, Michelle Facey, historian, singer, contributor to a huge amount of what we're doing this weekend, and queen of the bioscope as we think of her. That's Michelle. But also I'd like to introduce a special guest, Josh Cattermole. Now, this is Josh's second appearance here. You may recall just over a year ago he presented an extraordinary find, the previously lost Gold Diggers film from 1923. Now, there are very few nitrate collectors left in the country of any age at all, and I don't think there's very many at all in their 20s, but Josh is one such person, so I assume he's the youngest nitrate collector in the country. He's an archaeologist by profession, and has already made, I told him at the time when he found Gold Diggers at such a young age, well, you've peaked too soon, you're not going to top a find like this. But I was wrong. He's back with even more groundbreaking discoveries. So please give a very warm welcome to Michelle and to Josh.
Thanks everyone for having me back and for such a warm welcome. What I'm presenting today, rather than last time, which was a feature film, today is a variety of different fragments of films from some of the earliest days of cinema, anywhere from 1897 to 1916 today. And they're presented each in turn. I'll give a little blurb before each one. The first one is really quite special, but it's also quite sobering. I assume no one really has heard of the actress Gaby Deslys, who was a French actress who, it's nice to see that some people know, but sadly very little known today. Back in her day, she was a superstar, well and truly. On Broadway, she was earning $10,000 a week, which in today's money is 130 grand. And she made a foray into silent films, of which basically nothing survives. As far as I know, there's one reel of one of her French films and the rare fragment today, which is her only American film, her Triumph from early 1915. And the fragment today is quite short, but it shows a very, very amazing multicolored sequence, which is why I think it was saved, because it was found in a little lot of cut down silent films, and it really is quite fantastic. Only the second surviving example which I know about. And it's quite amazing to see Gaby Deslys in the flesh, because she was known for her dancing and her singing as well. And speaking of singing, we have Michelle Facey singing one of Deslys' songs, which was called the Gaby Glide, which would be associated with one of her dances. And a few records of it survive, but it's really quite a rare treat to have it sung live and with music today. So give it up for Michelle Facey.
Thank you, and we have Tim Rumsey on the piano here as well, please. Thank you, welcome Tim. Thank you, Tim. Everybody's raving about the real Frenchy two-step. Everybody wants to do this my fancy new step. It's a funny bear, Paris on the tear. Well, I do declare it is classy. Gaby brought the dance and it's got us all a-going. Since she came, no other twirl has had any showing. It's a music treat for your dancing feet. It is flashy but neat. Just a twist and a bend that you hope will not end. Oh, oh, that Gaby Glide. It's just a real Parisian slide. Prance along as though you were upon the boulevard. Dance it here and dance it here, and people dancing hard. Start into the side, do the Paris ride, swing up near then wide. Oh, oh, that Gaby Glide. Don't lag or let your feelings hide. Do the sidestep trip and then go back the other way. Do the forward dip and see how you begin to sway. Oh, oh, that Gaby Glide. crazy about this new dance bewitching. We can't stop our feet at all, they feel such an itching. You are in the air, floating here and there. Not a single care comes a-stealing. Talk about your other rags, why they aren't in it. You feel all the joys of life in one single minute. Do you travel so, with a lot of go? Can you stop? I guess no. It's a big joyful dip. It's a heavenly trip. Oh, that Gaby Glide. It's just a real Parisian slide. Prance along as though you were upon the boulevard. Dance it here and dance it there and keep on dancing hard. Starting to the side, do the Paris ride. Swing up near then wide. Oh, that Gaby Glide. Don't lag or let your feelings hide. Do the side step trip and then go back the other way. Do the forward dip and see how you begin to sway. Oh, that Gaby Glide. Thank you.
Next, which is going to be shown, is something called Lying Lips, which is an Italian film which went under the name L'ultimo attu, and it was released in 1913, filmed in Rome, and interestingly, this print was found in North Yorkshire, and the actual print itself had some distributors' stamps throughout the whole of the print, which was quite fantastic. It's amazing how when you study the actual prints themselves, you can find these little pieces of the actual behind the scenes of the silent film distribution industry. And also this film highlights how important the European studios were for pre-war cinema, which was sadly trashed by the Great War in large part, one of the reasons why the American studios managed to take over. And though this one is only the introduction, it's a very charming, delightfully tinted sequence, which I hope you all enjoy. Cheers. Okay, this one's pretty special, which is coming up. So most people from the silent era have sadly been forgotten, but there are some names which have survived the test of time. And one of those, which is amazing to share today, is Oliver Hardy during his solo career. And this piece is from 1916, when he was still a very young guy, when he worked for Vim Comedies out of Jacksonville, Florida. And this one is one of the short comedies where he was with Billy Ruge. And I think you'll really enjoy this one. It's only very short, but it's quite fascinating. Now, not only are film productions fascinating, but also documentary footage from the past. This one is quite early and it shows a very impressive engineering feat of its time. It's from 1907 and it shows a ship of the White Star Line of Titanic fame. The SS SUEVIC, basically, it ran aground on the south coast, and instead of being written off at a loss, the company decided to blow the front end off and salvage the rear, tow it back to port, have an entirely new front end constructed and towed across the Irish Sea and grafted on to the surviving half. And this footage, which was previously lost, shows that amazing voyage, and you are in the seat of the camera crews of the Charles Urban Film Company as they went across the channel on one of the tugboats. Hope you enjoy. The next one, another short fragment and also of a nautical nature, is a celebration of the coronation of Edward VII and the naval review at Spithead. Ships from all over the world came to pay their respects to the king and emperor, and one of those came from the Empire of Japan, and the battleship Osama was allowed film crews on board to film the Japanese sailors doing various exercises. And one of them is shown today, which was lost until quite recently. Again, very short, but it's fascinating, and it's nice to keep in mind that the people who saw this film originally would have had no idea about Japan. It was on the far side of the world to them, so they'd have been as amazed as perhaps you might be today. The next film, which is a really curious piece of footage showing late Victorian or Edwardian individuals ice skating. And often when we think of these periods, we think of stuffy old photos, no one's smiling, they're clearly not having a good time, but this film somewhat disproves that, so enjoy. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention with the ship film, the SUEVIC, credit goes to Chris Bird for finding it in the first place. He tipped me off to it and said, "Oh, Josh, I got my hands full. I don't suppose you could do anything with this." So me and my friends booked a bit of a road trip, and we went down to Pevensey Bay on a horrible rainy day to pick it up from this strange gentleman in a bedsit who had no idea about these films. So I'm glad to see. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad to see that it went all right in the end. Anyway, on to the next film. This one's curious. And did any of you know in 1904 we nearly went to war with Russia? Bit close to home now, perhaps. Basically, they were at war with the Japanese at this time, and much of the Western world were like, the Japanese will be bowled over, and the Russians hubristically, well, they were proved, well. Anyway, what this incident portrays is various fishing ships out of Hull which were peacefully shipping in the North Sea, and the Imperial Russian fleet, which was to join some of their number in the Far East, were travelling around the world, and in the night they mistook these fishing ships for Japanese torpedo boats and proceeded to fire upon them, killing some of the sailors and causing great damage, to which the British public were quite rightfully outraged. And as it was known as the Northern Outrage. And the film shows the mess in port once the ships had come back, as well as the funeral of the sailors. But thankfully, we managed to defuse the situation. We didn't go to war with Russia, but the fleet, which eventually got to the Far East, was completely trashed at the Battle of Tsushima, and they had to sue for peace. So it didn't turn out too well for them. Okay, so for the next one, it's quite possibly a bunch of the earliest films you're likely to see here, though maybe prove me wrong in the future. These are by the director Robert Paul, who is one of the earliest pioneers of film in this country, and certainly a contender for one of the earliest film directors. And they're quite primitive in their nature, but keeping in mind this was the 19th century. The films you're about to see date from 1897 to 1901 and show a variety of different subjects. My favourites are, there are two magic trick films which use the early film editing to make some magic tricks on the screen, which no doubt would have wowed the audiences of the time who would never have seen motion picture before, keep in mind. And there are 6 which you're about to see. Most of them are complete, keeping in mind that back in these times the film was about a minute long or so, and these really are quite special. And these particular ones Chris also spotted. He saw that they might be quite early and was like, oh, I've got my hands full, maybe you might check this out. So I thought, okay. And it was an auction in Norwich, but I couldn't attend, so my friend and fellow collector James Fennell kindly bought them for me. They came along with a big projector, and I said, keep the projector, that's your piece. And he kindly sent them over to me, so massive thanks to those guys. And keep in mind, the quality is astounding for films which are now over 120 years old. 100 Victorian films are still, it's quite amazing, the concept of that. So I really hope you enjoy them. Cheers. last one was a bit of a cliffhanger, wasn't it? Okay, the final film which I'm going to be presenting today is a favourite. It's the first silent film I ever found, and it is a really interesting topic. Who'd have thought baseball being played in London before the Great War? And I had never heard of the London Baseball League until I researched more into this film. So it was around from 1906 to 1911, and the film which you're about to see is a Pathé newsreel which filmed the final of the league, where Leyton Orient played against Crystal Palace on Leyton Football Club's ground in London, which now is where it's basically wasteland. It's a car park, which is a shame, but it's really quite fascinating, the concept of people playing baseball in this country so long ago. You think it's the America's national sport, but it did kind of creep its way over here for a little bit. So enjoy, and thanks for having me.